On the 14th of August 1967, a young television reporter was sent to the local scrapyard to cover a news story at Barry Island, where he counted 250 dead engines. Barry had become a graveyard for steam locomotives and a place of pilgrimage for railway enthusiasts. It was one of the first television news assignments for a man later to find fame on the Today programme, John Humphreys. He chose an engine at random and climbed aboard to deliver his eulogy for steam.
The great steam giants that once pounded the rails from Land's End to John O'Groats, rotting and rusting now on tracks of weed and grass. This really is the end of the line.
Or so it seemed, particularly as British Railways had told preservationists that steam would never be allowed back onto the main line. Mr. Humphreys disappeared to find fame in London, little realising that steam would follow in his tracks. "34027 Tor Valley, of Southern's West Country class, was the very engine the reporter had mounted all those years ago when he pronounced steam dead. The engine was saved by a single-minded Yorkshireman with a romantic streak, who rescued it from the scrapyard in 1980 as a birthday present for his wife. Restoring it was to prove a tremendous labour of love, for Tor Valley had been stripped of many almost irreplaceable components.
The going price for a lump of scrap without the tender was £6,000, which was quite a cheap initial price, even in those days, because the ones with copper boxes and a lot more non-ferrous fittings on were going for a lot more, £12,000 in some cases. And we decided to buy an express engine because we wanted something glamorous. And in our innocence, we thought we might just get away with spending another £10,000 on it to make it into something worthwhile. But 8 years down the trail and over 100,000 plus, well over 100,000 plus into it, we got a complete steam engine, which still wasn't certified for running on the British rail system, which we do now. But we did decide to upgrade it, and we spent the best part of another £12,000 upgrading it to be capable and fit to run on the main line.
Among the missing bits were the nameplates. They simply couldn't afford to buy them back.
We had the originals offered us some time ago from a chap, I think he lived down on the south coast somewhere, but we decided he didn't want them because the money that was being asked was far too ridiculous. And in actual fact, these nameplates have been on the engine longer than the originals. So, in sentimental terms and historical terms, these have a few stories to tell, and these are a lot more valuable to us, really.
During its tour of duty partnering Clanline as one of the regular Orient Express locomotives, Tor Valley was frequently stabled at Stewart's Lane in London. Today, it's rostered on a tour to Portsmouth Harbour, along the Portsmouth Direct line via Woking and Guildford, a surprisingly tough route for a steam loco on a heavy train. Today's Tor Valley is a very different creature from the scrapyard wreck. Bert Hitchins still remembers the list of pluses and minuses when he was trying to make up his mind whether to buy it at all.
Pluses and minuses, the pluses of the modern design. A glamorous passenger engine, steel firebox, workable components which you can reach. The minuses are there was very little attached to it when we did buy it, and we had to buy 90% of the stuff at manufacturer can buy it from new, which includes the tender.
The VSOE Pullman stock lives in an adjacent shed, and as usual was coupled to the suitably painted Class 73 electro diesel named the Royal Alex. Its job is to drag the stock into Victoria, and at the other end of the trip to pull the whole train backwards into the terminus at Portsmouth Harbour. It'll form part of the trailing load the rest of the time. The train exceeds 500 tonnes, so Tor Valley's footplate crew will earn their money. Their engine has done some of its heaviest work in the preservation era, and her basic character has become clear to the men who look after her.
She's a lady, she's graceful. If you liken her to a horse, she's like a chunky dun with lots of bottom. She's got lots of muscle there, lots of stamina. She certainly wants to run. You hit on her about 63 mile an hour on the speedo, and I've noticed it quite a number of times. It's just like another power comes in, as if somebody's come on the back here, or another engine's come into power, and she's off. She really does go. And then the drivers have to throttle her down and ease her down.
The stock arrives at Victoria's famous boat train platform. This was the starting point for so many romantic journeys to the continent, but today's Orient Express passengers are usually going no further than a day tour of southern England. It's steam which will make the day so memorable and different. Tor Valley's sparkling condition compares starkly with the decaying rabbit warren of railway lines in the shadow of Battersea's derelict power station. The EWS engine men are a cheerful bunch, but laid-back appearances disguise their underlying watchfulness. The few remaining Southern Mainline steam drivers have been reversing engines over the Thames for 40 years or more, and are delighted to be ending their careers back on steam. Whether their engine looks any more incongruous than the permanent way machine is a matter of opinion. The man in charge, with his back to camera, is Dennis Donovan, the traction inspector, one of the most popular of railway ambassadors. The people who travel on Orient Express excursions are often ordinary working folk celebrating a big day in their lives, and the pictures will end up in family scrapbooks. A mile or two out of Victoria, Tor Valley passes Stewart's Lane again, and is about to tackle the sharp climb to Clapham Junction. The Bulleid's three-cylinder beat is almost lost in the insulated splendour of the train. Each Pullman car is a museum on wheels, but it's a different story in the humble support coach behind the engine. This is really a mobile workshop, with few comforts for the unpaid volunteers who act as the support crew. Most of them are listening to the engine on the short but spiteful bank at Long Hedge, once the site of a locomotive works. It's a burrowing junction under the Waterloo lines where Tor Valley has slipped to a standstill before. Typically of suburbia, the road calls for full regulator, followed immediately by minimum power in readiness for the speed restrictions through Clapham Junction. It's tricky stuff for the driver and fireman, as Bert Hitchin knows only too well.
It's heavy train. There's awkward turnouts and curves and little inclines and signal stops, as I've said, on the southern in suburbia. Therefore, the odds are stacked against the Pacific to keep its feet all the time. The rails are not too good, especially in November, December down here. There have been some abysmal rail conditions. And I think any locomotive would probably slip the same.
Please stand clear from the edge of platform 6. Please stand clear from the edge of platform 6. Please stand clear from the edge of platform 6. Please stand clear from the edge of platform 6. Please stand clear from the edge of platform 6.
In the support coach, Bert and his mates are listening again, this time for the climb up Whitley Bank where Surrey and Hampshire meet. The second summit is the South Downs, and here the locomotive toils uphill from Petersfield towards Burriton Tunnel. Then it's fast forward to the seaside, swooping through the downland towards Havant. This is Tor Valley running like a Rolls-Royce at 75 miles an hour, the maximum permitted for steam, but way below her capability.
Only two down, yeah.
There's a parking stop at the middle road at Havant Station where the lines from Brighton join the Portsmouth Direct. They arrived just 2 minutes down and will now try to keep the engine quiet. The traction inspector has had a firing turn and wonders whether they'll burn all the remaining fuel in the firebox on the few short miles into Portsmouth. The driver is Malcolm Hall, who spent his youth firing on the freight link at Eastleigh, so this is his backyard. They'll pull the train to Fareham and then run backwards into Portsmouth via the triangle at Cosham.
Nectar of the gods. All right, this side, Mel. That was a whistle blowing. That noise you can hear is the cylinder cock still open. Regulator. That gauge there corresponds with what steam he's got in the front end there.
Why isn't he using all the steam, Dennis?
Because he'll slip. Now, there she goes. If you look at that steam pressure, that's what's in the front end. If he was to put that lot in, we'd go into a terrific spin. So he has to regulate it. Hence the name, regulator. Now what our fireman bloke's doing here is trying to get rid of some of the fire that I happen to put in there. We've only got about 25 minutes now, about uphill gradients. What did you have off of there, Mel? See now, the driver, we only had one yellow there, so we'll be prepared to stop round the corner if it's a red light. So he shut off.
Dan, is this road very subject to that? You get a lot of stops and starts.
Well, we can do it because of level crossing gates, etc. Like, you know, but if the signalman's a bit quick, which we are now, we're right away now, we are. As you can hear. Now you can see he's got more steam in the front end now. Now he's bringing it up. Now what? See? They're almost identical, those two gauges. This is where he changes gear, very similar to a car, which we've spoken about before. Changing up and down with a car.
In steam days, Malcolm Hall rarely strayed beyond the Hampshire area.
It's surprising how little distance you travelled on a steam locomotive turn, especially on a freight train. All our turns in that link were Salisbury, Bournemouth, Basingstoke, or Fratton, or Chichester. That's as far as we went. At that time, 63, Eastleigh was a busy steam shed, a very busy steam shed, with all manner of locomotives. From Bullies, the Nelsons had just been retired, out of service, so the Bullies were the big engines. And we had all the old Southern engines, Q1s, Qs, S15s, Us, Ns, Midland tanks. What else do we have? Standards, 76 standards, 73 standards, and one or two 75 standards. So we had a good old mixture of steam locos.
His regular engines were standards like this 76 class loco.
They were based, almost all of them were based on LMS designs, the later LMS designs, and they were very functional, easy for the engineman engines, basically. Everything was where it should be, and they were good, strong engines and simple to work on, really. And when you were working every day on steam engines, you were looking for simple to work on, not complications.
These machines were gradually replacing Southern types, like the U-class, which Malcolm also commonly fired. His other regular mount was the S15. Those days of BR steam are remembered for the comradeship between engine men.
It's very much, I was never in the forces, but they liken it to the camaraderie in the forces, where people work together closely all the time, and you do build up a rapport with the people you work with, you know, and it's sort of magic, really.
When men like Malcolm Hall aren't driving steam locos, they're on driver-operator-only diesel turns.
Well, DOO is the norm on EWS. We are on our own all the time on the locomotive, and sometimes you can spend a whole shift and you only see For instance, I did a turn a couple of weeks ago to Birmingham with tank train. And when you leave Eastleigh Yard, you don't see a soul then until you get to Washwood Heath Yard in Birmingham. You see the shunter and you speak to him for about 20 minutes, half an hour, have your break, and then on the way back and they're on your own again.
So it's no surprise they enjoy steam. They're running backwards now. The train is being pulled by the Royal Alex towards Portsmouth Harbour Station, an opportunity for a closer look at the fire.
In that fire you'll see a blue haze. That's a good sign that that fire's getting dirty. When you see a blue haze on a fire like that, especially when it's as low as that, it's a sure sign that it's getting dirty. It's either clinker or dusty. Now what happens when it is dusty, the dust settles down and forms into clinker. So you haven't got that amount of air coming through the fire. So that means it's got to be cleaned. And when you said, does that mean you've got some work to do? I would have said no, because I won't be doing this fire today. We're leaving it as a support crew today.
But in VR days then, if you'd been on a trip like this, what would it
Well,
be like for you?
no, I won't contradict myself, because there was a time when we used to do mileage like this. Because we only had sometimes an hour turnaround, we wouldn't have cleaned the fire. We'd have darted it, lift the clinker up, broke it up, chased it around the box. That means it finishes up like a lot of ballast in the firebox, and then made the fire up on that. The idea is to break the sheet up. It's a sheet of clinker all over the bars. So once you put the dart in there, which is a fire iron, or rock the bars, you break it up and bring it to the surface and use it as ballast. Then make your fire up on it again. Sometimes a quick turnaround, you didn't have time to clean a fire. Not properly.
Portsmouth Harbour, the destination of the rail tour. The passengers will spend the afternoon touring HMS Victory and the docks, and the train will collect them again at tea time. But it'll be a busy afternoon with the engine, which is due to be coaled and watered at the nearby Fratton Yard. They've arrived bang on time. Tor Valley sits for a few moments in the sun, awaiting the very sharp 1 in 60 climb out of the harbour station. This is where Malcolm gets off, handing over to another Eastleigh crew. But first a quick check around the engine and a chance to consider the locomotive's performance from London. It's a 7P machine doing what is really a Class 8 engine's work, though the flies on the buffer suggest they haven't exactly hung about. How's it been for the driver?
Good trip. She steamed well, and it's quite a hard trip because West Country's only Class 7, and we got 10 Pullmans and an ED on the back, which makes it about 12 or 13 in weight, so quite a heavy train. So you needed all the power the engine's got to do the job.
And the trip is sort of all uphill and then all downhill. I can't quite understand
Yeah,
it.
The Portsmouth Direct is a very up and down hilly line. It's got 2 very high summits, and it's a struggle up them, and of course you get the ride down the other side, so it evens itself out, I suppose.
We could certainly hear the engine working hard, but sounding good. I mean, coming up Whitley Bank and
everyone likes that, yeah. Yeah, it's working in the second valve, all the regulator, and 50 on the cut-off, which is quite a lot for a West Country. That's why you could hear it well.
After the glories of Whitley Bank, the engine must now keep her feet, leaving Portsmouth Harbour. The empty coaching stock can't be left in the busy harbour station all afternoon, so 500 tons of it have got to be moved. She walks away with the sanders on, but it'll be a different story later in the day when the evening dew begins to combine with any diesel residue, making the rails slippery. For now, though, the enginemen are relieved.
That's it. That's the worst part. We're over the worst part. See, she took some sand here to come out here. They're the sands we're working on. That's it. Beautiful, beautiful. That's it. Now we've got a green light. That's it. That's it.
The reason for the climb is that part of Portsmouth main station is a high-level station, so they get a rooftop view of the city as Dennis gives in to the temptation to show the fire who's boss.
That is clinker, look. There's your clinker, boy, look. There it is. That's what we've got to get rid of before we can go back up. And that's just coming about 100 miles on that.
Fratton was once a busy steam shed with everything down to the little terrier tanks that work the Hayling Island branch line. Today, Tor Valley has the place to herself. The support crew can work out how much coal and water she's used.
But in a typical trip, like from Victoria today, into Portsmouth and then back here, I think there was something like 1,000 to 1,500 gallons left in the tender, which has a capacity of 5,500 gallons.
Their main task is cleaning the fire, aided by the rocking grate. The oil gets topped up too, which isn't strictly necessary after 100 miles, but does give some peace of mind. And then it's just a case of rebuilding the fire, with the owner Bert Hitchin doing the donkey work. Bert was once a racing cyclist who was good enough to take part in the Tour de France, a man of some considerable character.
If he wants to do something, he's the sort of man that is capable of doing it. When you consider that Flying Scotsman has seen off 2, if not 3 millionaires, the commitment that Bert has is quite phenomenal, really, because they are very, very expensive things to run, and sometimes we are at a loss to understand how he manages it. But his commitment is 200% of his life. It's total. We all have a great admiration for the man.
As regards doing it all again, we're 20-odd years older, and it's hard to say really whether you'd do it again. You get committed once you get one, and once you're committed, you've got to pursue it through to the end. You could turn your legs up in the air and sell it, I suppose, halfway through, and some people do. They do lose interest, and engines do change hands. In this particular case, it's not at the moment changing hands. So
You're not a quitter, are you?
No, you've got to. Got to be determined about these things and do them.
The passengers stroll back to their train in the last of the evening sunshine. The Orient Express is booked months in advance, such is the reputation of the service. Redevelopment of the old naval base is changing the harbour, but one thing remains the same from steam days. The piers of the harbour station won't support the weight of a bullet, which is the reason Tor Valley comes in on the trailing end of the train. The distant figure of Dennis Donovan relays the right of way, and the battle for adhesion is about to begin. The engine men shun a shove from the electro-diesel on the back. It remains a matter of pride to get away without assistance if they humanly can. At first it looks as though Tor Valley is away cleanly, and the driver can cautiously begin to wind in the cut-off just a fraction. But the real pull only begins once the train is clear of the platforms, which are level, and its full 500-ton weight sits on the engine as they climb the viaduct that can be seen in the foreground. With her fire glowing brightly, Tor Valley climbs away from the harbour, the sound of her labours echoing across the Portsmouth skyline. In the second part of this programme, we'll be looking in more detail at the engine's performance and joining the crew on the footplate for one of the most demanding climbs in southern England, when the Bullard will be operated at maximum output.